I've always been a maker. I've always liked to build things. So during lockdown, I decided to buy myself a 3D printer. That way I could start printing some stuff for my bike. Pretty much everybody was fascinated with the 3D printer, including the cats. The first things I printed were things that were useful for around the house, and these were designs I got off a website called Thingiverse. I printed all of these in PLA, which is an easy material to print with, but it actually doesn't hold up that well in sunlight or with moisture. But then I wanted to print some things for my indoor trainer. I needed a way to mount my phone on my aero bars while I was biking. It didn't need to be that secure, so PLA was fine. I didn't care if it warped or moved around a little bit. And after a couple of tries on the phone case, it looked fine and it worked great. So next I wanted to print some GoPro mounts, one for Norm's front handlebar and one under my saddle. These were still printed with PLA, and while that's a stiff material, I don't expect it's going to last that long. With exposure to the sun and over time with moisture, it might warp a little. But we put them on our bikes and took them to the luge, which is a nice flowy trail with a couple of drops on it, to try it out. The trial was a success. They worked great. They stayed on, nothing broke. The next thing I wanted to make was to put a mountain bike handlebar onto my triathlon aero bars to have a better hand position and more comfort while on my trainer. This didn't have any models that I could borrow. This had to be custom, so I had to measure all my parts, and then I used AutoCAD Fusion 360 to design 3D models for all of the parts. These also need to be printed with supports, so I had a little bit of post-print work to do.
So this one goes here. Okay. Let's see if the handlebar fits. Ready? So that one will go here. Okay.
After about a month of printing with the PLA, I felt I was such an expert I was going to switch over to carbon fiber PC filament. This involved replacing the extruder and the filament, so I had to rework the printer a little bit to do this. For my first print job, I decided I wanted to print some tire levers.
Let's see how this came out. Oh yeah.
I had previously printed the same tire lever in PLA with the same infill of 90%. Now it's time to do a comparison. Well, they were both a success, but I think the carbon fiber one will hold up better over time. Now it's time to 3D print some carbon fiber wheels for myself. Okay, just kidding.
So this was printed with supports, so now I have to break off the supports. That's the other one. Looks pretty nice. The infill density on this I think was only 30%, so it won't be as thick, but just to support the camera I don't think it needs to be. All right. And now it's installed on my bike.
To test my new GoPro carbon fiber mount, I took the bike to Santa's Village to try it out. It held up and worked great. I'd call that a success. So am I ready to 3D print myself some pedals or maybe a new stem? Well, I don't think that's such a good idea. The companies that develop those products put a lot of time and money into testing them and making sure they're safe for everyone to use. See you on the trails!